Excuse me. Ooh. Is it on? Joe-Jin movie so awesome. I'm Joe.
This is Won-Jin.
We should have covered this in the Halloween possibly, but we will be covering The Cabinet of Curiosities by I can't say his name properly.
Guillermo del Toro.
Oh yeah,
Guillermo.
Yep. We are a big fan of Hellboy series.
And also Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
The first one, which was so freaking awesome.
Yeah. When I look at him, I know my inner childhood is going to be woken up. Mm-hmm. And these collection of stories definitely awoke my 7-year-old self. As in, I'm going to the bathroom multiple times while watching a movie. Because, man, 8 episodes. Won-Jin saw the first episode. I saw the whole series. So
I've only seen the first episode so far.
So today we are going to have spoilers for the first episode only.
Yeah.
I will try to refrain from giving major spoilers about the other ones.
And in my case, I don't really mind being spoiled because, frankly, after watching the first episode, I was quite terrified. So I think it would all actually benefit me knowing what's coming. And since all these episodes are independent from one another, I think it's okay.
And what I liked about it is it brings a lot of great directors. I think the last episode's director, she directed Babadook. That's a 2014 horror film. I watched it a long time ago. It was really good. And she also did the Nightingale one. That's not a horror one, but that's about Australian indigenous people. So these are great directors, and
well, after watching only the first episode,
let's talk about the first one first.
Let's talk about this first. One thing that stayed in my mind was the way the show started. I love how Del Toro himself comes up on the screen and he kind of eases in into the show. It reminded me. I don't know, for some reason, it reminded me of the old South Park.
Oh.
You know how Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they're always in this, in front of the... what was it?
Won-Jin is sharing his worldview, because I did not get that at all.
He was... I mean, those two, they're always with this really cuddly dog. And they're in front of the fireplace, telling the audience about what's coming. Yeah, so that was refreshing. And it also gave me a sense that I'm about to embark on a journey.
Right, yeah. I got that. Yeah. And, this is not a major spoiler, but I didn't know what that figurine was. But I think those figurines represent the directors of each episode.
Oh.
So we will get the name right next time, and we will give shout out to a lot of actors. And so I really like that. I the impression I got after watching all 8 episodes was that, man, Toro is such a generous director because he's promoting these people. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure, because he's a real heavyweight. Like, major blockbuster under his belt. I mean, he has great movies. He won all the awards. So I think he's bringing up these directors. I mean, they're all famous in their own right. One of them female. I also enjoyed she did a vampire movie, a black and white vampire movie. I really like that one. So these are not unknown directors. They're heavyweights, but I think they're not quite in his class yet, so to speak. So he's definitely bringing them up and putting them in a bigger platform, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, because considering his fame, and reputation, he could have just easily taken all the spotlight. Yeah. But instead, he chose to take this opportunity to give a shout out to all these different directors.
So I think it's called Toro's Cabinet of Curiosity because we're gonna watch this because of him. And now what we're in, the first 1 minute is here's the tale, here's the story told by this person. Yeah. And that's really nice. And I also got one more thing is one little nitpick is I could tell he was reading off the
prompter.
Yeah, it was kind of. I think so. I thought so. You tell me what you think.
Because after all, I wouldn't really mind it because he's a director. He directs movies. He's not supposed to be like an actor or a master like public speaker or something. So I understand that he had to read off from a prompter if he actually did.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really bother me at all. And one funny thing is, I only watched the first episode.
Right.
And after watching the first episode, I got the impression, well, subconsciously, I was constantly thinking this was directed by Del Toro himself.
Oh.
And even if it had been directed by Del Toro himself, I think it really matches his color because throughout
I think the first one, I'm not sure. Like, I think he has a writing credit in one of them, or the director. Hey, don't quote it on us. We'll check again. We're sorry about that. But maybe the first one, like he did though, because I understand what you meant. I felt the same way.
Yeah.
Because it's the same vibe from his other movies, isn't it?
And that's one of the things I like about his work, because there are some prominent directors who have such distinct color that every time we watch their movie, that we can tell that this movie has his or her own color. For example, Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Tim Burton always has a very unique style of his own. And Del Toro himself, like the Labyrinth, I mentioned Pacific Rim, but this is, I think, among his collection is kind of like an outlier in a sense. But his other movies, they have very, very similar vibe, like you say. And watching the first episode also gave me that similar vibe.
I would say this too, though. Like, all the characters seem real. You know how like sometimes short stories can have like characters of no consequence, but the first episode is so good in the fact that we're gonna talk about this, but like the episode is so good at even making the silliest thing seem relevant. The few dialogues that each of these characters have all play a function, and it's just. And this is a recurring theme of all 8 episodes.
Really?
But I have no idea what the fuck's gonna happen. the fear of the uncertainty is real.
Right. That's the scariest thing.
Like, even the first. Let's talk about the first episode. When they start talking devil worship, in a different director, we might find that funny. But I was like, fuck no! Don't you do it!
I had the same feeling.
Yeah.
The moment I saw that pentagram shit in that lot 36. It was creepy that the dude was like bunny hopping in the security video. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, because remember, we already don't like that dude.
Yeah, because we see him chopping that rodent or whatever.
Yeah, very first scene, like, we're like, see, this. So all episodes is very good at this. The opening may be a little bit different. But they always do this like attention grab in all 8 episodes. The first one is so good because after that clip, after he gets a heart attack, we're like, what the fuck? And then we go into a different character. It's almost like Tarantino-esque, like Pulp Fiction shit. We're like, I thought we were gonna be with these guys. What's going on? And it's basically like an onion. Like, they keep unveiling. You want to know about that old man? What the fuck he was up to? Huh? He's a weird fucker, isn't he?
He used to be a fucking Nazi.
Yeah. And the first episode, especially, it's so good at putting us in that guy's position. Because when he's afraid, we're afraid.
That's
too.
right. We're afraid.
Like, I was like, damn, man, run! I was like, don't stay there. Like, and that even that like side character, that German guy.
Oh, the German guy. I loved when he showed up.
Yeah.
And I loved the fact that they kept like a German accent on him.
Yeah, that was so good. And then the detail I'm talking about is him and the other art dealer kissing, like cheek kissing each other. Like the first episode is so good at giving each character no backstory, but somehow endearing because they all have quirks. Like that black guy, for instance. May he rest in heaven or hell or where the fuck he is. So it's very good at showing us what kind of character these are in very short dialogues.
Yeah, and I love the way they set up the protagonist of the episode.
Yeah.
We see him driving in a truck,
right,
and then he's listening to that like
white supremacist radio,
far right,
kind
of radio,
and
he's passionately agreeing with what's being said on the radio.
But the show is good because there is a racial tension in the middle around with the black guy. But I like how it toys with our feeling about the character too, because he says, in my unit, everybody was green. So we're like, wait a minute, are you a racist or not? What the fuck is going on? But he did disrespect the
Latina lady.
The Latina lady. So it's like, I did feel near the end sympathetic towards him, though, because he may not be a good man, but you're kind of like, but does he deserve this, though? You know what I mean? Like, he's not a sympathetic man. He's obviously running away from gangsters who owe him money. He's shitty around other people. But then they tell us that he used to be a soldier.
Yeah, and it's kind of brief, and we can tell that things really didn't go his way after he came back from the war.
Yeah.
And we also see the setting is also like after the Gulf War or something, or during the Gulf War, because we see the older Bush, the Bush senior, being president, talking about New World Order and blah 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 blah. So although in the beginning we see him being a complete asshole, well, he doesn't have, and in a place where he didn't really have to be, but towards the end we do realize that things didn't really go his way,
right?
And deep inside, he might not be like the person he shows to be, because from moment to moment we can tell that it's the circumstances that shaped him.
Yeah, so it's like a good short story in that it shows the character is complex without telling us everything about them, and this goes out through everything. Because, like, you know, because the first episode is basically like a baseline for the upcoming episodes. And it definitely reminded me of a lot of Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, we read it in high school. You know, there are these characters that are interesting, but shit happens to them. It's like basically like if Edgar Allan Poe and Lovecraft had a child. It's basically these... And a little bit of Richard Madsen mixed in there, like about, you know how, like, because what will happen is there will be different settings, time settings throughout. They're all in the 20th century basically, but different time settings. So a little bit of sci-fi mixed in there, but essentially the reason why I mentioned Edgar Allan Poe and why he studied in literature classes is because he's a good storyteller. That's true. Period. Horror is what he chose, but it's a good story.
Yeah.
Because the first one is like, it's all 8 episodes. I have never been there was not a moment where I was bored. Like, wow, so engaging. And I think you said it privately before we filmed, no budget too.
Yeah. If you think about it, the first episode centers around that warehouse.
Right.
That's pretty much it. And with that, even with that warehouse set, they're very effective at creating tension and also in times fear and horror.
Yeah.
Because it's the way the warehouse is portrayed, and all like some of these tiny details of the warehouse.
Yeah, I hated that fucking timer.
Yeah, that timer, that timed light, that light kept flickering and going off. That also creates tension and also a sense of fear, and also the fact that it's supposedly built after the Second World War, so it's super super old.
Yeah. And then the nice detail was the protagonist is not stupid because he realizes that
the space seems smaller than the other ones.
So it's like the script is really tight, and the actors. Wow, let me tell you about the actors here. Great character actors across all 8 episodes. Even the first one, wow, just blew me out of my mind. And fuck that monster, man.
That tentacle
Why did you have to design it like that?
Oh, that was disturbing.
And even the last 5 minutes, it toyed with our hopes. Is he gonna make it? Because the moment the lady says "Peace, sayonara," I'm like, oh yeah, he's gonna die. Yeah, there was a glimmer of hope there.
And now, overall, I love the fact that the first episode, although it has all these great way of presenting the story and all these great characters, but fundamentally, I love the fact that this does not this doesn't go too far from a classic cautionary tale from those folk tales that we've heard when we were kids, ever since we were kids. So a cautionary tale usually has like
you're saying it's a morality tale, basically,
kind of.
A little bit.
It has these steps. Like first, there's some sort of thing that you're not supposed to do. It's like, don't touch that shit. Don't open that door. There's something prohibited. And the second detail is always somebody fucks with it. They usually just ignores the caution, and they just decide to do whatever's forbidden. And then third, they always pay the price.
Right.
And this has those classic elements.
Yeah.
So, well, it's kind of focused.
No, but it does mixes up though, because remember, we know that he's desperate. He needs that money to pay back by tomorrow.
But here's the twist is, the German dude offered him 10 grand.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, he offered him 10 grand for the 3 books, and I'm pretty sure he could somehow scramble the other $2,000 to pay back the dude the next day. So he did have a chance to find his way out. And remember, the 10 grand I think was for the 3 books.
Right.
With the other stuff, I'm pretty sure he could have earned.
Wow, that's good observation.
$22,000.
Yeah.
But he decided to be greedy for that $300K. The moment he heard $300,000, he just went off the rails.
You know what's funny? I forgot completely about that, because the moment they mentioned 4th book, I knew what the fuck was gonna happen. I was like, oh no, you guys are gonna go back there, aren't you? You fucking moron!
Yeah, that's right. And you're gonna discover some horrible secret.
No, but one thing that surprised me was, though, I think the episode did well. I was almost convinced that the Latina lady was his sister in hiding.
I was also thinking about the same thing, but then I realized, I mean, maybe, but the fact that she's like of a different race, that couldn't be true, because we see the picture of, what's her name, Dottie. That was her sister, his sister's name or something. Yeah,
and I watched it 2 times. You know what shocked me in the second viewing? The moment you guys walk on a dark corner and see an old lady without her face, get the fuck out of here.
That's right.
Why are you jumping towards that? I was like, oh fuck, is she gonna wake up and do some horrific shit? And it didn't happen.
There are all these cautions. I mean, there are warnings all over the place. You know those like crucifixes of Jesus Christ, and we see those like the scripts of the Bible throughout the hallway.
Yeah, I mean, filming is great too. Like when we go in, like, this is why, like, every story has been told before. It's how you tell it. The first episode, I mean, it's such a traditional horror story, yet it felt so fresh. Like, even like the tentacle shit, I was like, oh man. And hats off to the actor. He plays a piece of shit really well. Like okay, that was unfair. Down on your luck person. He's down on your luck person, and it was great. It was great.
Oh, and also, I love the details that help us portray, that help the show portray the protagonist as a greedy person. Because, again, like I mentioned earlier, he had the chance to walk away with $10,000.
Right.
He owes $12,000. But we can clearly tell that he spent a lot of money on that car. Right. That new truck, that brand new truck that the mobster dude bashes with his hammer.
Yeah.
If he sells the car, I'm pretty sure he can earn a lot more than $12,000, but he just decides not to. And that also means he had the money to pay back, but instead he chose to spend that money on that car.
You bring up a good point. Each episode here, I would say this though, protagonists are all different. Like, this is a non-spoiler, but the second episode's protagonist is basically like the first protagonist. Like, almost very similar. A desperate person. But it's almost the same as, Won-Jin, you must have like some kind of sixth sense, because when you watch the second episode, you're like, I said all this before. It's like very similar to the first one. A little bit more comedy. A little bit more comedy.
Okay, that's good.
But you hit the nail on what drives the second episode, basically. But the surprise come on the third episode. See, There are characters like that. Each episode all have protagonists, by the way. But the third one is don't fuck with old man, like basically. And the fourth one is it's like a dark version of the Ugly Duckling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a dark human version of the Ugly Duckling. And the fifth one is about. Are you a fan of Oscar Wilde?
I wouldn't call myself a fan.
Do you remember the Portrait of Dorian Gray?
No.
About this artist who can prevent aging by drawing.
I remember.
Yeah, that's a famous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a famous one. We all read but forgot later.
It's starting to like slowly come back. The fact after you mentioning it, I'm also being reminded myself of like old Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
There was a story called The Cast of Amontillado or something.
Yeah, that's the one where the guy is buried alive.
Yeah, that was also quite terrifying when I was young. But it was also, like you said, super entertaining.
Won-Jin, go get the food. I'll distract our audience.
Anyways.
Sorry, guys. Our food is here, and we want to eat it while we're warm. It's warm. So, but to our subscribers, let me tell you something. Like, all of them are around an hour length, like the first episode. And each protagonist is a little different, though. But all of them have the cautionary tale element where some people are driven by desperation. Some people are driven by curiosity, too. Curiosity. And I think it was not my favorite episode, but the last episode is driven by grief. So there are a lot of elements of great stories with different protagonists. And it's basically like this is like a buffet for horror fans. You will get all kinds of genre. And the 7th episode, the whole episode is an homage to the 80s and 70s and 80s. And just you will get all different flavors. It's like Baskin Robbins 8 flavors of horror. Like I wish there were 8 more episodes. Like I would be here for that.
Maybe there would be like a second season
2,
of
right?
this because I think the reception of the first series is really good.
Yeah, if you like Black Mirror, you'll like this too. Like I really hope like season 2 or 3 adds a bunch of like new directors. Cause and hey, what you like the first episode? I wouldn't have mind if it was 30 minutes longer.
I agree.
I wanted it to be a movie almost. And all episodes are like that. Almost all of them. But I am curious about how we're going to talk about this, Won-Jin, because we are going to talk about this once Won-Jin is finished with every one of them, but because we're going to rank our favorites.
Yeah, I think we can talk about like the best moments that we personally pick and favorite episode. And then we'll print out the directors or put a wiki page up so we can talk about it if our knowledge. But overall, oh man, I had such a great time. Oh, and another thing worth mentioning from the first episode is how the director engaged all our senses. Remember, in literature, we learned from the elements of fiction.
Oh man,
in order to create a great description, you have to engage the senses. And from the very beginning of the episode, we see that old man chopping up that rodent thing, and the sound, and we can kind of feel the knife like cleaving through that whatever that was. And also the moment they find that secret passage behind the lot 36, they keep mentioning how disgusting the smell is. And we can kind of imagine what the smell is like. And throughout watching that episode, I think all my senses were like completely engaged.
You know, Won-Jin, I'm so sorry to say this, but you're in for a surprise.
Really?
Yeah, they're gonna fuck with you with all senses more. Like the first episode, like, cause before we finish, I would say though, like, it never felt gory, but there are moments where like I was like, God damn, like, cause one of the like, first of all, if you watch the first episode, the other ones, if you don't like horror, you will be able to tolerate it more because you kind of get the theme of all of it. Because the second episode I feel like was the gentlest. But and then the third, but the recurring theme is uncertainty. while you are uncertain what's going to happen, they fuck with all your senses. Like, all across the board, the sound design is excellent. And, you know, I will say this, though. All episodes, they use silence really well. You know, because, you know, we live in an age of smartphones, so we're always in a hurry, right?
Yeah, and there's always this noise in the background.
Right. But this show is very, like, I think every, like, future horror director, like, who wants to become a director should watch all of these, because I think each director brings their mastery to it. And the exceptional one about the 8th episode was, like, her directing made, like, so much. There's a catharsis at the end. That's why the 8th episode is kind of special.
Really?
That's why I think some people might not like it. Some people might like it.
That reminds me of Death Proof by Tarantino, because the catharsis is it's also at the end.
Yeah, but that one is from, like, revenge satisfied justice. The 8th episode is really about healing. So it's actually very emotionally deep. I was surprised at how effective it was. And it uses sound a lot. And let me tell you something. Without giving you spoilers, every time you see a child, be worried about that child. There isn't much. There's only there's only 2 episodes, that have a child. But when you see a child and they add some loving scenes there, don't fuck with that.
I'm already concerned.
Yeah. You know, like, because in horror movies, one of the things I hate the most is the child screaming and moaning shit. I don't know what it is that gets to us. And you bring up a good point. Like, it's so this film goes to show how language is still powerful within a film setting, because there's visual, but the first episode, let's just talk about that. The dialogue adds to what we're seeing. Yeah.
Especially something that we can't feel.
Yeah. And it's horrifying. But to make you feel better, some of them are really, like, badass. I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, the third one, I can't get into it, but I was just like, damn, that's a badass man. Fuck yeah. Fuck him up. Like, because
I'm going to watch this, like, right after our show's over.
Yeah. But anyway, like, I can't talk anymore without spoiling. So I think we highly, highly recommend this series. I mean, it's one of those things that I think Won-Jin, you said, you can come home after work and just watch one episode. You don't have to binge it, but all of them will be worthwhile. And
but I didn't, because I was afraid that I might get nightmares before I go to bed.
Yeah, just be prepared, guys. Like, it's never disgusting, violent, but Won-Jin said it well, and it just fucks with your senses. And I think one of the reasons why I think it does give emotional terror too, though. I think that's what great directors do. You know how, like, when we see, like, in a YouTube video, for example, when we see, like, a little bear in danger, we kind of feel for them, right? There's something, like, fundamental going on there. I think great directors do that. Like Blair Witch, our fear of the woods. But anyway.
And also confined spaces.
Exactly.
Just like what Ridley Scott did with the first Alien.
You bring up so well, because Alien... See, here's another thing before we end it. All of these shows is like... They all learn from Alien, because the Alien is barely seen, right?
Yeah, especially in the first movie.
Like all of the series, all of the episodes are going to be like that. The unknown, and there's a mystery to it, and the mystery is always solved. So... If you like mysteries, you also like this.
And you said this in private. The relief is that we all know that this is fake.
Oh, thank you, Toro. Thank you, all you directors, because like, there are some series, like, today we live in an age where documentary and movie is blurred a lot.
So I think they have a word for it. They call it, like, mockumentary or something.
Well, yeah, like, but this one, at least, you know when you're going into a Toro movie, you know it's going to be a good story. Like, it doesn't need, like... As long as it's believable within the context, that's fine. But once you're done, you know it's just a story. It's a great story, and you feel like mixed emotions about it, sadness and happiness all together. I think he's really great at that. And I mean, and hats off to Toro for, like, Pacific Rim. I have never seen an ending where the woman and they don't kiss. That's why he's a brilliant director. Fuck that.
Fuck the romance.
Yeah. We're gonna talk more about this once we finish the completely. And
I'm pretty sure there's a lot more to talk about once I finish all the episodes.
Yeah, so we will do a full spoilers version possibly next week or the next week following. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been Jojin Movie So Awesome. I was Joe.
I was Won-Jin.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.